The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Defense Academy like thunder. Cadet Marcus Chen rolled out of his bunk before his feet hit the cold metal floor. Around him, alien cadets from 12 different species scrambled to their battle stations. The Zephyrian cadets moved with liquid grace, their blue skin shimmering as they flowed toward their weapons lockers. The massive Chronari stomped past, their rock-like bodies making the floor shake with each step. Marcus grabbed his standard-issue plasma rifle and fell in line with the others. At 19 years old, he was the only human in his training squadron. Most days, that felt like carrying a mountain on his shoulders. "Emergency drill commencing," announced Commander Vexstar through the intercom. The Altarian's voice crackled with authority. "Unknown hostile forces have breached Sector 7. All cadets report to defensive positions immediately." The corridor filled with the sound of running feet, claws, and other appendages as the mixed group rushed toward the training arena. Marcus kept pace easily, his human physiology surprisingly well suited to the Academy's artificial gravity. Behind him, he heard Cadet Zrix muttering in the clicking language of the insectoid hive. "The human will slow us down again," Zrix clicked to his squad mate. "Weak bones, soft skin, no natural weapons. Why do they even bother training his kind?" Marcus pretended not to understand, though the Academy's universal translator made every word clear. He had heard similar comments for the past 6 months since arriving at the Academy. Humans were new to the Galactic Coalition, barely 50 years since first contact. Most species saw them as curiosities at best, liabilities at worst. The training arena stretched out before them like a small city. Holographic buildings rose from the floor, complete with windows, doors, and realistic shadows. The Academy's advanced simulation technology could create any battlefield imaginable. Today, it showed a bombed-out urban environment with rubble-strewn streets and smoking vehicles. Commander Vexstar stood at the center of the arena, his forearms crossed over his broad chest. The Altarian's golden eyes swept over the assembled cadets with mechanical precision. His species had evolved from predators, and it showed in every calculated movement. "Today's scenario," he announced, his voice booming across the arena, "is based on a real battle from the Xerian War. Enemy forces have taken control of a civilian population center. Your mission is to neutralize the threat while minimizing collateral damage." A holographic display appeared above the commander's head, showing the tactical situation. Red dots marked enemy positions throughout the urban landscape. Blue dots represented civilian hiding spots. The cadets would need to navigate between buildings, eliminate threats, and protect innocent lives. "The enemy possesses advanced energy shields," Commander Vexstar continued. "Standard plasma weapons are ineffective against their defensive systems. Brute force will not succeed in this mission." Cadet Thyrix, a tall elongated from the spiral arm sectors, raised one of her 3 hands. "Commander, if plasma weapons cannot penetrate their shields, what weapons should we use?" The commander's golden eyes fixed on her with approval. "That is the challenge, Cadet. You must find alternative solutions. The enemy expects conventional attacks. They have prepared for energy weapons, explosive devices, and kinetic projectiles. Think beyond standard tactics." Marcus studied the holographic display carefully. The enemy positions formed a defensive perimeter around a central building where civilians were being held. Traditional assault patterns would fail against opponents who had prepared for every conventional weapon in the Coalition arsenal. "Teams of 4, the commander ordered. Mixed species composition. Begin mission planning. You have 10 minutes before deployment." The cadets quickly sorted themselves into groups. Marcus found himself assigned to Alpha Team with Zrix the Insectoid, Thyrix the Elongated, and Braktar, a young Chronari whose rocky hide was still developing its adult armor plating. "Great," Zrix muttered, his compound eyes reflecting the arena's artificial light. "We get the human. Might as well surrender now and save ourselves the embarrassment." Thyrix's 3 hands moved in complex patterns as she studied the tactical display on her wrist computer. The enemy shields are specifically designed to deflect energy-based attacks. The briefing materials indicate they have adapted to Coalition weapons over the past decade. Braktar's gravelly voice rumbled like distant thunder. My people tried crushing attacks during the Xerian campaign. Enemy shields adapted within hours. Traditional strength means nothing against adaptive technology. Marcus pulled up the technical specifications on his own display. The enemy shield technology was indeed impressive, designed to analyze incoming threats and adjust defensive parameters in real time. Plasma bolts would be deflected. Projectile weapons would be stopped. Explosive devices would be absorbed and their energy redirected. What if we do not attack the shields directly? Marcus asked. His three teammates turned to look at him. Zrix's antennae twitched with what might have been amusement. The human has an idea. This should be entertaining. I am serious, Marcus continued, ignoring the insect's sarcasm. The shields are designed to stop weapons, right? But what if we use something that is not classified as a weapon? Thyrix's elongated head tilted to one side. Explain your reasoning, Cadet Chen. Marcus pointed to the holographic display. Look at the building construction. These are civilian structures, built for comfort and accessibility, not military defense. The enemy is using the buildings themselves as cover, but they have also trapped themselves inside a limited space. And? Braktar rumbled. And buildings have weaknesses that have nothing to do with weapons, Marcus replied. Structural supports, electrical systems, water pressure, atmospheric controls. The shields protect against direct attacks, but they cannot protect against environmental changes. Zrix's compound eyes focused on the human with newfound interest. Environmental manipulation. Not classified as weapon deployment under coalition protocols. Exactly, Marcus nodded. The enemy expects us to shoot at them. They do not expect us to change the conditions of the battlefield itself. Commander Vextar's voice echoed through the arena. 2 minutes until deployment. Finalize your strategies. Thyrix's hands moved rapidly across her computer interface. Building schematics show standard atmospheric recycling systems. If we could introduce a harmless but incapacitating gas into the ventilation network. My people have natural resistance to most atmospheric toxins, Braktar offered. I could move through affected areas to secure civilians. Zrix's antennae perked up with excitement. The hive developed non-lethal biochemical agents for pest control. Temporary paralysis, no permanent damage. Not classified as weapons under any treaty. Marcus felt a surge of hope. What about structural weak points? If we could create controlled collapses, we could force the enemy into predetermined positions without directly attacking their shields. Human knowledge of architectural engineering? Thyrix asked. Basic physics, Marcus replied. Remove support from the right places, and gravity does the work for you. No energy weapons required. The commander's countdown reached 0. Teams deploy. Mission begins now. The 4 cadets moved into the simulated urban environment, their unlikely strategy taking shape with each step. Around them, other teams charged forward with conventional tactics, plasma rifles blazing against enemy shields that shimmered and held firm. Alpha Team took a different approach. They moved through service tunnels and maintenance access ways, avoiding direct confrontation while Marcus identified structural weak points in the target buildings. Thyrix accessed the building's computer systems through hidden terminals. Braktar prepared his species' natural toxin resistance. Zrix synthesized biochemical compounds using materials from his personal supply kit. Within 30 minutes, the first enemy position found itself in trouble. The building's atmospheric system began circulating Zrix's harmless but effective paralysis compound. When the enemy soldiers tried to escape to higher ground, they discovered that Marcus had identified and weakened key support beams using nothing more than a standard maintenance tool. The building did not collapse completely, but settled enough to trap the occupants without harming them. With their mobility compromised and their consciousness fading from Zrix's biochemical agent, the enemy found their advanced shields useless against environmental threats they had never considered. Other teams watched in amazement as Alpha Team cleared position after position without firing a single shot. The enemy's adaptive shields remained at full strength, protecting against attacks that never came. "Impossible," muttered Cadet Kexare from Beta Team as his plasma rifle bounced harmlessly off another energy shield. "How are they advancing without engaging enemy defenses?" Commander Vexstar observed the exercise from his command position, his golden eyes tracking Alpha Team's unconventional progress through the urban maze. The Altarian's expression remained neutral, but his four hands moved in patterns that indicated deep thought. By the end of the simulation, Alpha Team had neutralized 6 enemy positions and rescued all civilian hostages without firing a single energy weapon or deploying any device classified as military hardware under Coalition protocols. The other 3 teams had managed to clear 2 positions between them, despite superior firepower and more experienced tactical training. As the holographic environment faded away, the arena fell silent except for the sound of breathing from various species. Cadets from other teams stared at Marcus and his teammates with expressions ranging from confusion to grudging respect. Commander Vexstar stepped forward, his forearms still crossed over his chest. "Cadet Chen," he said, his voice carrying across the arena without amplification. "Explain your team's strategy to the other cadets." Marcus felt every eye in the arena focusing on him. Representatives from 12 species, many of whom had been fighting wars for longer than humans had known about space travel, waited to hear what the young human would say. "We decided that the enemy's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness," Marcus began, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. "Their shields made them confident that no weapon could harm them. So we decided not to use weapons at all." Cadet Thyrix stepped forward to support her teammate. "The humans' approach forced us to think beyond conventional military doctrine. We used environmental factors, structural engineering, and biochemistry instead of direct confrontation." Zrix's compound eyes reflected the arena lights as he added, "A hive teaches that the strongest fortress falls when its foundation shifts." The human understood this principle without formal training. Braktar's rocky exterior seemed to shift slightly, which other cadets recognized as a sign of approval among his people. "Chronari legends speak of warriors who could defeat armies without drawing a weapon. We thought such tales were mythology. Perhaps we were wrong." Commander Vexstar nodded slowly, his golden eyes fixed on Marcus with something that might have been approval. "The Xerian War lasted 3 years longer than necessary because Coalition forces repeatedly attacked the same adaptive shields with the same conventional weapons. The enemy's technology evolved faster than our tactics." The commander paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "In actual combat, the shield technology you face today has resisted every weapon in our arsenal. Plasma rifles, neutron torpedoes, molecular disruptors, gravity weapons, temporal displacement devices. All ineffective against adaptive defensive systems." Marcus felt his throat go dry. "Sir, you are saying that the simulation was based on real technology that the Coalition cannot defeat?" "I am saying," the commander replied, his forearms now hanging at his sides in a more relaxed posture, "that you have potentially solved a tactical problem that has cost the Coalition thousands of lives and countless resources over the past 5 years." The arena remained silent as the implications of that statement settled over the assembled cadets. Marcus looked around at his classmates, many of whom had spent their entire lives preparing for military service in advanced civilizations. The weight of their attention felt heavier than the Academy's artificial gravity. "There is more," Commander Vexstar continued. "This simulation will be reviewed by Coalition Strategic Command within the next 48 hours. If your unconventional approach proves viable in real combat situations, it could change how we engage adaptive shield technology across the entire galaxy." Cadet Kexare from Beta Team stepped forward, his reptilian features showing confusion. "Commander, are you suggesting that a human cadet has discovered tactics that escaped our best military minds?" The commander's golden eyes swept across the arena, taking in every face before settling back on Marcus. "I am suggesting that sometimes the newest perspective sees solutions that experience overlooks. The Coalition has been fighting the same war with the same tactics for so long that we stopped questioning our basic assumptions." Marcus felt his legs go weak. 6 months ago, he had been a college student on Earth, studying engineering and dreaming of maybe working on a space station someday. Now he stood in a training arena surrounded by the future military leaders of 12 alien civilizations, being told that his freshman-level physics knowledge might help win an actual war. "Sir," Marcus managed to say, "I was just thinking about how buildings work. I did not solve anything important." Commander Vextar's expression shifted slightly, and, for a moment, Marcus caught a glimpse of something that might have been amusement in the Eltarian's golden eyes. "Cadet Chen, the ability to see familiar problems from unfamiliar angles is perhaps the most important skill any military officer can possess. Your species may be new to space warfare, but you bring perspectives that the rest of us have forgotten." The commander turned to address the entire group of cadets. "Today's exercise demonstrates why the coalition values diversity in its military forces. Different species, different backgrounds, different ways of thinking. When we combine these perspectives, we become stronger than the sum of our individual capabilities." As the cadets began filing out of the arena, Marcus found himself walking alongside his three teammates. The casual insults and dismissive comments that had followed him for months seemed to have evaporated, replaced by something he had not experienced since arriving at the academy: respect. "Chen," Zrick said, his antennae moving in patterns that Marcus had learned indicated serious thought, "the Hive Collective would like to invite you to participate in a strategy consultation next week. Your approach to non-conventional problem solving could benefit our tactical development programs." Vyrix nodded agreement, her elongated form moving with newfound purpose. "The Spiral Arm Coalition has several ongoing research projects that could use your environmental manipulation concepts. Would you be interested in collaboration?" Braktar's gravelly voice carried a note of warmth that Marcus had never heard before. "The Stone Clans honor those who find new paths to victory. You have earned recognition among my people, human." As they reached the corridor outside the arena, Marcus realized that something fundamental had changed in the past few hours. He was no longer the weak human who slowed everyone down. He was no longer the liability that other species tolerated out of political necessity. He was a cadet who had found a solution where others had seen only problems. He was a team member whose different perspective had created new possibilities. He was, perhaps for the first time since arriving at the academy, exactly where he belonged. But Marcus also understood that this was only the beginning. If Commander Vextar was right about Strategic Command reviewing their simulation, then the real test would come when his unconventional ideas faced actual combat situations. The enemy shields in today's exercise had been programmed based on known technology, but real opponents might have capabilities that no simulation could fully predict. Still, as he walked through the academy's corridors surrounded by alien teammates who now saw him as an equal rather than a burden, Marcus felt something he had not experienced in months: confidence in his own abilities and excitement about what tomorrow might bring. The message arrived during Marcus's advanced physics lecture 3 days later. Professor Yelnara, whose crystalline form refracted light in beautiful patterns as she explained quantum mechanics, paused mid-sentence when her communication device chimed with an emergency priority signal. "Cadet Chen," she said, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones that made her species sound like living music, "you are requested to report to Admiral Station immediately." Every head in the classroom turned toward Marcus. Admiral Station was the highest level of the academy, reserved for senior command staff and visiting dignitaries from coalition worlds. First-year cadets never went to Admiral Station unless they were in serious trouble or something extraordinary had happened. Marcus gathered his materials and left the classroom under the curious stares of his classmates. The elevator ride to Admiral Station felt like it took forever, even though the Academy's advanced transport systems could move between levels in seconds. The doors opened to reveal a corridor he had never seen before. Unlike the functional metal hallways of the cadet levels, Admiral Station featured polished stone floors and walls decorated with artistic representations from dozens of coalition worlds. Tapestries from the Weaver clans hung beside crystal sculptures from the Silicon Collective. The display cases contained artifacts from famous battles and diplomatic achievements spanning thousands of years. "Cadet Chen?" A voice spoke from behind him as he stepped into the corridor. Marcus turned to see a being he did not recognize. Tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shift between silver and gold depending on the angle of the light. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on a face that was both alien and somehow familiar. The uniform indicated high rank, but Marcus could not identify the specific insignia. Yes, sir, Marcus replied, snapping to attention.
I am Admiral Zarathul of the Nexus Consortium, the being said. Walk with me, Cadet. We have much to discuss.
They moved through corridors that Marcus had only seen in Academy promotional materials. Through transparent walls, he could see observation decks that looked out onto the training grounds where advanced cadets practiced with weapons systems he had never seen before. Your simulation from 3 days ago has created quite a stir, Admiral Zarathul said without preamble. Strategic Command reviewed the tactical recordings within 6 hours of the exercise. By yesterday morning, the recording had been distributed to fleet commanders in 3 active war zones. Marcus nearly stumbled. Sir, I was just trying to pass a training exercise.
Indeed.
And, in doing so, you may have provided solutions to tactical challenges that have been plaguing coalition forces for the better part of a decade. The Admiral's 4 eyes seemed to focus on different aspects of Marcus's face simultaneously.
Tell me, Cadet, what do you know about the Hegemony War?
Only what they teach in basic history classes, sir. The Syndicate hegemony has been fighting coalition forces for 8 years. Their technology adapts to our weapons faster than we can develop new ones. The war has been largely at a standstill for the past 3 years.
A fair summary, though it lacks the human cost.
Admiral Zarathul stopped walking and turned to face Marcus directly. The stalemate you mention has resulted in over 2 million coalition casualties.
Entire star systems remain under hegemony control because we cannot break through their defensive lines without unacceptable losses.
They resumed walking, passing through a security checkpoint where scanners analyzed Marcus from multiple angles before allowing them to proceed. Beyond the checkpoint, the corridors became even more impressive, with holographic displays showing real-time tactical information from across the galaxy. The defensive technology you encountered in your simulation, the Admiral continued, is based on captured hegemony equipment from the Battle of Kepler Station. Every conventional weapon we have attempted to use against those shields has proven ineffective. Marcus felt a cold sensation in his stomach.
Sir, are you saying that my training exercise was actually a test using real enemy technology? Not exactly. Admiral Zarathul's expression shifted in a way that Marcus was learning to recognize as amusement among his species.
The simulation was based on detailed analysis of hegemony shield technology, but the defensive parameters were actually enhanced beyond what we have observed in combat. We wanted to create a scenario that was impossible to solve using conventional military tactics. They entered a large chamber that took Marcus's breath away. The room was circular, with a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light indicated coalition worlds, trade routes, and military positions. Red areas marked hegemony-controlled space, while a yellow zone showed contested systems where fighting continued. Around the chamber's perimeter, workstations were occupied by beings from species Marcus had never encountered before. Their uniforms bore insignia indicating ranks and positions that existed far above anything taught in cadet training programs. This was not just Admiral Station, this was the real command center for coalition military operations.
Welcome to Strategic Operations, Admiral Zarathul said.
Every major military decision affecting the war effort originates from this room. A new voice spoke from across the chamber. And, today, we are hoping that a first-year human cadet might help us make one of the most important decisions of the entire conflict. The speaker approached them with measured steps. Marcus recognized the species immediately, Altarian, like Commander Vextar, but older and bearing insignia that indicated a rank Marcus had only read about in textbooks. The forearms moved with precise coordination, and the golden eyes held an intelligence that seemed to see right through Marcus.
Fleet Admiral Kekshan, Admiral Zarathul said formally. May I present Cadet Chen, the human responsible for the tactical breakthrough at the Academy. Fleet Admiral Kekshan studied Marcus for a long moment. Cadet, how much do you know about practical military engineering?
Only basic principles, sir. Structural analysis, materials science, environmental systems.
I studied civil engineering for 2 years before joining the coalition. The Fleet Admiral's 4 hands moved in complex patterns. And how much do you know about the industrial capacity of human civilization? Marcus blinked in confusion. Sir, I am not sure I understand the question. Earth's manufacturing capabilities, Cadet. Production facilities, resource availability, technological infrastructure. How quickly can your species produce large quantities of specialized equipment? I do not really know, sir.
Earth has extensive manufacturing, but I was never involved in industrial planning or resource management.
Fleet Admiral Kekshon exchanged a look with Admiral Zarathal that seemed to communicate volumes. Show him the projections, Admiral.
Admiral Zarathal gestured toward a large holographic display that materialized in the center of the chamber. The image showed a detailed tactical analysis of Marcus's Academy simulation, with every action broken down into component parts and analyzed from multiple perspectives. Your environmental manipulation strategy, Admiral Zarathal explained, has been tested against 17 different scenarios based on actual hegemony defensive positions. In every case, the approach succeeded where conventional weapons failed. The holographic display shifted to show a series of battlefield simulations. Marcus watched in fascination as virtual coalition forces used his basic principles to overcome enemy positions that had resisted attacks for months or years. Instead of attacking shields directly, the simulated forces targeted structural supports, atmospheric systems, power distribution networks, and other environmental factors. The beauty of your approach, Fleet Admiral Kekshon said, is that it requires no advanced technology that the hegemony can analyze and counter. Basic tools, fundamental physics, simple chemistry. The enemy's adaptive shields cannot evolve to defend against environmental changes because those changes are not classified as weapons under any definition. Marcus stared at the holographic battles playing out before him.
Sir, you are saying that this could actually work in real combat?
We are saying that it has already worked in real combat. A new voice spoke from the chamber's entrance. Marcus turned to see a group of beings in combat uniforms rather than the dress uniforms worn by the command staff. These were clearly frontline soldiers, and their equipment showed signs of recent use. Scorch marks, dents, and field repairs indicated recent exposure to actual fighting. The speaker was a Chronari, but, unlike Braktar from the Academy, this one was fully mature. His rocky exterior bore the scars of multiple battles, and his movements carried the confidence of someone who had survived situations where others had not.
Colonel Thakmore, Fleet Admiral Kekshon said. Report status of Operation Silent Stone. Mission accomplished, sir.
The Chronari's gravelly voice carried satisfaction.
We used the humans' environmental approach against the hegemony position at Wolf 359. 3 months of conventional attacks had failed to breach their defenses. We neutralized the entire installation in 6 hours without firing a single energy weapon.
Marcus felt his legs go weak.
You used my ideas in actual combat?
Colonel Thakmore turned his attention to the young human.
Your ideas saved the lives of my soldiers, Cadet. The hegemony shields at Wolf 359 had adapted to resist every weapon in our arsenal.
Plasma rifles, particle beams, antimatter torpedoes, gravitational crushers.
All ineffective. The colonel gestured, and the holographic display changed to show real combat footage from Wolf 359.
Marcus watched in amazement as coalition forces infiltrated the hegemony installation through service tunnels and maintenance shafts. Instead of attacking the enemy directly, they systematically disabled environmental controls, weakened structural supports, and introduced harmless but incapacitating substances into the air circulation system. The enemy never understood what was happening, Colonel Thakmore continued. Their shields remained at full power throughout the entire engagement. They were protected against direct attacks that never came.
Fleet Admiral Kekshon stepped forward. Based on the success at Wolf 359, Strategic Command has authorized the expansion of environmental tactics throughout the Coalition fleet. We are calling it the Chun Protocol. Marcus stared at the Fleet Admiral. Sir, you named it after me? You developed the fundamental principles, Admiral Zarathal replied. It seemed appropriate. The holographic display shifted again, showing a galaxy-wide strategic overview.
Red zones indicated hegemony-controlled space, but now Marcus could see planned operation markers throughout the contested areas.
dozens of missions, all based on environmental manipulation rather than direct confrontation.
This brings us to why you are here today, Fleet Admiral Kekshan said. The Chun Protocol requires specialized equipment and training that goes beyond standard coalition military capabilities.
We need tools for structural analysis, environmental manipulation, and biochemical deployment that can be produced quickly and in large quantities.
Marcus was beginning to understand. And you think Earth's industrial capacity can provide what you need?
We know it can, Colonel Thackmore said.
Human manufacturing technology may not be as advanced as some coalition worlds, but it excels at rapid mass production of relatively simple devices.
The Chun Protocol does not require exotic technology. It requires basic tools used in innovative ways. Admiral Zarathal activated another holographic display, showing technical specifications for equipment that looked surprisingly familiar to Marcus.
Structural analysis scanners that resembled the engineering tools he had used in college.
Environmental manipulation devices that looked like advanced versions of construction equipment from Earth.
Biochemical deployment systems that were essentially sophisticated versions of agricultural spraying apparatus. None of this technology is particularly advanced, Admiral Zarathal explained.
The innovation lies in the tactical application, not the equipment itself.
Human industry could produce these devices faster and in greater quantities than any other coalition member.
Fleet Admiral Kekshan's four hands moved in patterns that Marcus was learning to interpret as serious consideration.
We are prepared to offer Earth a military production contract that would make your planet one of the coalition's primary equipment suppliers.
The economic benefits would be substantial, and the strategic importance cannot be overstated. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the implications. Sir, I am just a cadet.
I cannot speak for Earth's government or make decisions about military contracts.
Of course not, the Fleet Admiral replied. But you can serve as a liaison between Coalition Strategic Command and Earth's leadership.
Your understanding of both the tactical requirements and human manufacturing capabilities makes you uniquely qualified for this role. Colonel Thackmore stepped closer to Marcus. There is something else you should know, Cadet.
The hegemony has begun analyzing the defeat at Wolf 359. Their intelligence services are attempting to understand what happened and how to counter it. We estimate that we have perhaps 6 months before they develop effective countermeasures. The weight of that statement settled over Marcus like a heavy blanket. 6 months to implement a galaxy-wide tactical shift that could determine the outcome of an 8-year war. 6 months to transform his simple engineering principles into tools that could save millions of lives. What would this liaison position involve? Marcus asked. Fleet Admiral Kekshan's golden eyes seemed to brighten slightly.
You would work directly with Earth's industrial and military leadership to coordinate production of Chun Protocol equipment.
You would also help train coalition forces in environmental manipulation tactics.
And you would continue your education here at the Academy, specializing in strategic tactical development.
Think carefully before you answer, Admiral Zarathal added. This assignment would change the course of your life dramatically. You came here to be a junior officer in the Coalition fleet. We are offering you the opportunity to help reshape how the Coalition fights its wars.
Marcus looked around the Strategic Operations Chamber, taking in the galaxy-wide displays, the senior command staff, and the real-time information flowing from active war zones. 3 days ago, he had been a struggling cadet trying to prove he belonged at the Academy. Now he stood at the center of Coalition military planning, being asked to help coordinate an industrial effort that could determine the fate of entire civilizations.
Sir, he said finally, if this could help end the war sooner and save lives, then I want to help. But I need to understand something first. Why me? Surely there are others more qualified to serve as liaison with Earth.
Colonel Thackmore's scarred exterior shifted in what Marcus recognized as approval among his species.
Because you think differently, human. You see solutions where the rest of us see only problems.
You understand both the engineering principles involved and the tactical applications required. And, most importantly, you have proven that your ideas work under actual combat conditions.
Fleet Admiral Kekshan nodded agreement. The Chun Protocol represents a fundamental shift in military thinking. We need someone who understands both its potential and its limitations.
Someone who can explain complex tactical concepts to industrial planners and translate manufacturing requirements to military commanders. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision ahead of him.
How soon would this assignment begin?
Immediately, Admiral Zarathul replied.
A courier ship is being prepared to take you to Earth within the next 48 hours.
You would have 1 week to meet with Earth's leadership and assess manufacturing capabilities.
After that, you would return here to oversee the implementation of training programs for coalition forces.
The holographic galaxy display rotated slowly, showing the vast scope of the conflict that had been raging for 8 years. Marcus thought about the millions of coalition casualties that Fleet Admiral Kekshan had mentioned. He thought about his teammates from the Academy simulation, and how their different perspectives had combined to create something none of them could have achieved alone. He thought about Colonel Thakmore's soldiers, who had successfully completed a mission using principles that Marcus had developed during a training exercise.
I will do it, he said finally.
I will serve as liaison and help implement the Chen Protocol throughout coalition forces. The senior officers exchanged glances that seemed to communicate satisfaction and, perhaps, relief.
Fleet Admiral Kekshan's 4 hands moved in patterns that Marcus interpreted as formal acknowledgement. Very well, Cadet Chen.
You are hereby assigned to strategic operations as a tactical development specialist with liaison authority. Your temporary rank is elevated to lieutenant, effective immediately.
Congratulations.
As Marcus left Admiral Station an hour later, his head spinning with technical specifications, deployment schedules, and strategic plans, he realized that his life had changed in ways he was only beginning to understand. Tomorrow, he would board a ship bound for Earth, carrying the responsibility of helping coordinate an industrial effort that could affect the outcome of an interstellar war. The weak human who had struggled to find his place among alien cadets was now a coalition officer entrusted with implementing tactical innovations across multiple species and star systems. The journey ahead would test everything he had learned about engineering, strategy, and leadership. But, for the first time since arriving at the Academy, Marcus felt completely confident that he was exactly where he needed to be. The courier ship Meridian dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly 72 hours after Marcus had accepted his assignment. Through the vessel's observation deck, he watched his home planet grow larger as they approached, a blue and white marble suspended against the black of space. It looked exactly the same as when he had left for the Academy, but Marcus felt like he was seeing it through completely different eyes.
First time back since you joined the coalition? Asked Captain Velnara, the ship's Zephyrian commander.
Her flowing form moved with liquid grace as she joined Marcus at the observation window.
Yes, ma'am. I never expected to return as anything other than a junior officer on leave.
Marcus studied the familiar continents and cloud patterns below.
Now I am supposed to convince Earth's leaders to transform the planet's entire industrial base for an alien war.
Captain Velnara's blue skin shimmered with what Marcus had learned was amusement among her species.
You are not trying to convince them to join an alien war, Lieutenant. You are offering them the opportunity to help end one.
The ship's communication system activated with a soft chime.
Captain, we are being hailed by Earth Defense Control.
They are requesting identification and purpose of visit.
Open a channel, Captain Velnara ordered.
She turned to Marcus.
This is your moment, Lieutenant. You speak for strategic operations now.
Marcus stepped up to the communication console, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like a physical force.
Earth Defense Control, this is Lieutenant Marcus Chen aboard the coalition vessel Meridian.
Requesting permission to approach for official diplomatic consultation regarding strategic military cooperation. There was a long pause before the response came.
Lieutenant Chen, please confirm your identity and coalition authorization codes.
Marcus provided the information, watching Earth grow larger through the observation deck as they exchanged the required diplomatic protocols. He had been gone less than a year, but the formal procedures felt strange after months of living in a truly multicultural environment where humans were just one species among many.
Permission granted, Lieutenant. You are cleared for approach to Geneva Spaceport. Be advised that Secretary General Morrison and the Defense Council are expecting your arrival. Captain Velnara looked impressed. The Secretary General of Earth personally? Your superiors clearly made their priorities known in advance. Admiral Zarathul sent detailed briefings ahead of our arrival, Marcus explained. Earth's leadership has been informed about the tactical breakthrough and the potential for military cooperation. The courier ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with barely a vibration, the Zephyrian technology providing a smooth transition from space to air travel. Marcus watched familiar landmarks pass below as they approached the international spaceport outside Geneva. The Alps looked exactly as he remembered, snow-capped peaks stretching toward horizons he had taken for granted before experiencing the alien landscapes of the Academy. Geneva Spaceport had grown substantially since Marcus's departure. New docking facilities designed to accommodate alien vessels extended the original human-built infrastructure. The terminal buildings showed architectural influences from multiple coalition species, creating a unique blend of human and alien design philosophies. Remember, Lieutenant, Captain Velnara said as they prepared for landing, you are not just representing the Coalition Strategic Command. You are representing the potential for your species to play a crucial role in galactic affairs. Do not underestimate the historical significance of this moment. The landing procedures went smoothly, and, within an hour Marcus found himself in a conference room at the United Nations headquarters, surrounded by the most senior leadership of Earth's government and military. Secretary General Morrison, a tall woman with graying hair and intelligent eyes, sat at the head of the table. Around her were the Defense Council members, representatives from major industrial nations, and several military officials whose uniforms Marcus recognized from his pre-academy studies. Lieutenant Chen, Secretary General Morrison began, we have received detailed reports from Coalition Strategic Command regarding your tactical innovations and the proposed industrial cooperation. Before we proceed, I would like you to explain, in your own words, exactly what you have discovered and why it matters. Marcus stood and activated the holographic projector that Captain Velnara had provided for the presentation. The room filled with three-dimensional displays showing the Academy simulation, the Wolf 359 operation, and strategic projections for implementing the Chen protocol across coalition forces. The fundamental issue, Marcus explained, is that the hegemony's defensive technology adapts to direct attacks faster than we can develop new weapons. Their shields analyze incoming threats and adjust their parameters in real time. This means that conventional military tactics become less effective over time rather than more effective. General Harrison, Earth's senior military commander, leaned forward. And your solution is to avoid attacking their defenses directly? Exactly. Instead of trying to break through their shields, we change the environment around them. Structural engineering, atmospheric manipulation, biochemical deployment, electrical system disruption. None of these approaches register as weapons to their adaptive technology. Marcus gestured, and the holographic display showed the Wolf 359 operation in detail. The Earth leaders watched in fascination as coalition forces systematically disabled a hegemony installation without firing a single conventional weapon. The beauty of this approach, Marcus continued, is that it relies on basic principles that the enemy cannot easily counter. Physics does not adapt. Chemistry does not evolve. Engineering tolerances remain constant. The hegemony can enhance their shields to resist more powerful weapons, but they cannot change the fundamental laws that govern structural integrity or atmospheric pressure. Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's Minister of Industrial Development, studied the technical specifications that appeared in the holographic display. The equipment requirements you are showing appear relatively straightforward. Modified construction tools, enhanced environmental scanners, specialized chemical delivery systems. Nothing that would require exotic materials or breakthrough technologies. That is correct, Marcus confirmed. The innovation lies in the tactical application rather than the technology itself. This is why Earth's industrial capacity is so important to the Coalition's strategic plans. Secretary General Morrison exchanged glances with her advisors before speaking. Lieutenant, help us understand the scope of what you are proposing. How many of these devices would be needed, and what would be the timeline for production?
Marcus activated another section of the holographic display, showing production requirements and deployment schedules. Coalition Strategic Command has identified approximately 200 active combat zones where conventional weapons have proven ineffective against hegemony defenses. Full implementation of the Chun protocol would require roughly 50,000 specialized devices of various types. General Harrison whistled softly. 50,000 units in 6 months, before the enemy develops countermeasures.
That is an ambitious timeline.
It is achievable with Earth's manufacturing capabilities, Dr. Kim observed, studying the technical specifications more closely.
Our automotive and aerospace industries could retool existing production lines to manufacture these devices.
The designs are actually less complex than many consumer products we already produce in similar quantities.
Marcus felt a surge of hope.
The coalition is prepared to provide technical support, raw materials, and economic compensation that would make this the largest industrial contract in Earth's history.
The knowledge transfer alone would advance human technology by decades. Secretary General Morrison stood and walked to the window, looking out at the International District of Geneva. Lieutenant, you are asking us to transform Earth into a military supplier for an interstellar war. That represents a fundamental shift in our relationship with the galaxy.
With respect, Madam Secretary General, Marcus replied, Earth is already involved in this war.
Coalition membership includes mutual defense obligations.
The question is whether we contribute in ways that maximize our strengths and minimize our casualties. The Secretary General turned back to face the conference table.
Explain what you mean.
Marcus gestured, and the holographic display showed casualty projections for different strategic scenarios.
If the current stalemate continues, coalition forces will eventually be overwhelmed through attrition.
The hegemony's adaptive technology gives them a long-term advantage in conventional warfare. When they finally push into core coalition space, Earth will be a primary target.
The room fell silent as the implications settled. General Harrison spoke first.
You are saying that this is not about helping the coalition win a distant war.
This is about preventing that war from reaching Earth.
Exactly. The Chen Protocol offers the possibility of breaking the stalemate within 6 months rather than allowing it to continue for years or decades. Every month we delay implementation increases the likelihood that Earth will eventually become an active battlefield. Dr. Kim activated her personal datapad and began running calculations.
From a purely industrial perspective, this represents an unprecedented opportunity. The technology transfer, the economic benefits, the establishment of Earth as a major player in galactic manufacturing. We could transition from a minor coalition member to an essential partner.
Secretary General Morrison resumed her seat at the head of the table.
What about the political implications? How would other coalition worlds respond to Earth suddenly becoming a major military supplier? According to Admiral Zarathul, Marcus replied, several coalition worlds have already expressed interest in licensing Earth-manufactured Chun protocol equipment.
Our industrial efficiency could benefit the entire coalition, not just the war effort. The Secretary General's expression grew thoughtful. Lieutenant, step outside the room for a moment. We need to discuss this among ourselves before proceeding. Marcus left the conference room and found himself in a corridor overlooking Geneva's International District. Through the windows, he could see the familiar bustle of Earth's diplomatic center, but now it seemed small compared to the galaxy-spanning operations he had witnessed at Strategic Command.
20 minutes later, he was called back into the conference room.
Secretary General Morrison's expression indicated that important decisions had been made.
Lieutenant Chen, the Defense Council has voted to accept the coalition's proposal in principle.
Dr. Kim will oversee the industrial implementation, working directly with your technical specifications. General Harrison will coordinate with Coalition Strategic Command regarding training and deployment protocols. Marcus felt relief wash over him like a physical sensation.
Thank you, Madam Secretary General. Earth's contribution could make the difference between victory and prolonged warfare.
There is one condition, the Secretary General continued. You will remain on Earth for the next month to oversee the initial production setup and training programs. We need someone who understands both the technical requirements and the tactical applications to ensure proper implementation. Of course. I will establish a liaison office here and maintain constant communication with Strategic Command. General Harrison activated his communication console. I will contact our major manufacturing centers immediately. With proper coordination, we could have the first production lines operational within 2 weeks. Dr. Kim nodded agreement. The automotive industry alone could produce 20,000 units in the first month if we prioritize this project. The aerospace sector could handle the more sophisticated environmental scanners and atmospheric manipulation devices. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus watched Earth's industrial capacity mobilize with remarkable efficiency. Factories that had been producing civilian goods retooled their production lines to manufacture Chen protocol equipment. Research facilities that had been working on consumer technology shifted their focus to military applications. Universities began training programs for coalition force instructors who would implement the new tactical doctrine. The transformation was visible from orbit. Captain Velnara, whose ship remained in Earth's system to provide communication with Strategic Command, reported that Earth's energy consumption and shipping traffic had increased by 30% as the industrial mobilization gathered momentum. Your species adapts quickly to new challenges, she observed during one of their regular briefings. Many coalition worlds would require months of political discussion before implementing changes of this magnitude. Humans are good at mobilizing quickly when we understand the threat, Marcus replied. The possibility of Earth becoming a battlefield provided very clear motivation. The first shipment of Chen protocol equipment left Earth aboard coalition transport vessels exactly 3 weeks after Marcus's arrival. 50 specialized devices designed for structural analysis and environmental manipulation, along with detailed technical manuals translated into 17 alien languages. The equipment was bound for the coalition base at Kepler Station, where Colonel Thakmore's forces would conduct field testing before full deployment. As Marcus watched the transport ships disappear into hyperspace, carrying tools manufactured in human factories to alien soldiers fighting a war among distant stars, he realized that Earth's relationship with the galaxy had fundamentally changed. His home planet was no longer a small coalition member seeking protection and guidance from advanced civilizations. It had become an essential partner whose industrial capacity could influence the outcome of galactic conflicts. 2 days later, a priority message arrived from Strategic Command. Colonel Thakmore's forces had used Earth-manufactured Chen protocol equipment to neutralize 3 separate hegemony installations that had resisted conventional attacks for months. The tactical success was complete, with 0 coalition casualties and minimal collateral damage. The hegemony forces never understood what was happening, Colonel Thakmore reported via holographic communication. Their adaptive shields remained at full strength throughout every engagement. They were perfectly protected against direct attacks that never came. Marcus stood in the communication center at Geneva Spaceport, surrounded by Earth's senior leadership, watching a battle-scarred Chronari colonel describe the tactical implementation of principles that Marcus had developed during a training exercise less than 2 months ago. Lieutenant Chen, Colonel Thakmore continued, your industrial liaison work has provided coalition forces with tools that function exactly as designed. Earth's manufacturing quality exceeds expectations, and the production timeline is ahead of schedule. Secretary General Morrison stepped forward. Colonel, what is the strategic assessment for full implementation of the Chen Protocol? Madam Secretary General, if Earth can maintain current production rates for the next 4 months, coalition forces will have sufficient equipment to implement the Chen Protocol in every active combat zone. Strategic Command estimates that this could reduce overall war duration by 60 to 70%. After the communication ended, the Geneva conference room fell silent. Marcus looked around at the Earth leaders who had made the decision to transform their planet's entire industrial focus based on tactical innovations developed by a 19-year-old college student who had been trying to pass a training exercise. Lieutenant, Secretary General Morrison said finally, when you return to the Academy next week, please convey Earth's gratitude to Coalition Strategic Command. This partnership has created opportunities we never imagined possible. I will, Madam Secretary General. But, I should also convey that this is only the beginning. The Chen Protocol represents a new approach to strategic thinking, But the galaxy contains many other challenges that could benefit from diverse perspectives and innovative solutions.
General Harrison nodded thoughtfully. Are you suggesting that Earth's role in coalition military operations might expand beyond equipment manufacturing?
I am suggesting that human approaches to problem solving have proven valuable in situations where traditional methods failed. The coalition benefits from diversity of thought, and Earth's industrial capacity gives us the means to implement innovative solutions quickly.
Dr. Kim smiled. Lieutenant, you left Earth as a student hoping to serve as a junior officer in the coalition fleet. You are returning as a strategic consultant whose ideas have influenced galaxy-wide military policy. That represents remarkable personal growth in a very short time. Marcus thought about his journey from struggling cadet to coalition lieutenant to strategic liaison.
6 months ago, he had been worried about fitting in among alien classmates.
Now he was helping coordinate industrial efforts that could determine the outcome of an 8-year war. The Academy taught me that different perspectives create new possibilities, he replied.
Earth's contribution to the Chen Protocol demonstrates what humans can achieve when we combine our strengths with coalition resources and knowledge. As Marcus prepared to return to the Academy the following week, carrying production schedules and technical reports that would inform the next phase of tactical implementation, he understood that his role had evolved far beyond anything he had imagined when he first applied for coalition military service.
He was no longer just a cadet learning to serve in an alien military.
He had become a bridge between human and alien perspectives, helping to create new approaches to challenges that affected entire civilizations. The responsibility was enormous, but so was the potential for positive change. The weak human who had once slowed down his alien teammates was now helping accelerate coalition victories across multiple star systems. The journey ahead would test everything he had learned about engineering, strategy, leadership, and diplomacy. But Marcus felt ready for whatever challenges awaited him among the stars. The message that would change everything arrived 6 weeks after Marcus returned to the Academy. He was reviewing deployment reports from coalition forces across 17 star systems when his personal communication device chimed with an emergency priority signal that made his blood run cold. All strategic operations personnel report to Admiral Station immediately.
Code Red Alert status.
This is not a drill. Marcus had never heard Code Red announced at the Academy.
According to his training manuals, that classification was reserved for direct threats to coalition core worlds or imminent strategic collapse.
He grabbed his uniform jacket and ran for the transport elevators, his mind racing through possible scenarios that could justify such an extreme alert level. The corridors of Admiral Station buzzed with activity unlike anything Marcus had seen before. Senior officers from dozens of species moved with urgent purpose, their expressions grim. Holographic displays throughout the corridors showed real-time tactical updates from active war zones, and none of the information looked encouraging. Marcus arrived at strategic operations to find the command center in a state of controlled chaos. Fleet Admiral Kekshan stood at the center of the chamber, his forearms moving in patterns that indicated extreme stress among his species. Around him, tactical specialists worked frantically at their consoles while the galaxy-wide situation display showed more red zones than Marcus had ever seen before.
Lieutenant Chen, Admiral Zarathul called from across the chamber.
Report to Tactical Analysis Station 7 immediately. Marcus hurried to the indicated position, where he found Colonel Thakmore and a group of officers he did not recognize studying a holographic display that made his stomach drop.
The display showed a massive hegemony fleet movement, far larger than any previous military action in the 8-year conflict. What am I looking at? Marcus asked.
Total war, Colonel Thakmore replied grimly. The hegemony has committed every available vessel to a coordinated assault on coalition core space. Over 3,000 ships moving simultaneously against our most heavily defended worlds. The holographic display zoomed in on specific fleet movements, and Marcus could see that the hegemony strategy was unlike anything documented in coalition tactical databases. Instead of attacking military installations or strategic resources, the enemy fleets were heading directly for major population centers. They are targeting civilian worlds, Marcus observed with horror.
More than that, said a new voice. Marcus turned to see Admiral Zarathul approaching the analysis station. Intelligence indicates that this is a response to our success with the Chun Protocol. The hegemony has concluded that they cannot win a prolonged conflict against adaptive tactics, so they are attempting to force a decisive engagement before we can fully implement environmental strategies. Colonel Thackmore activated another section of the holographic display, showing tactical projections for the approaching battles. Coalition forces are outnumbered 3-1 in most sectors. Even with Chun Protocol equipment, we lack sufficient ships and personnel to defend every targeted world simultaneously. Marcus studied the strategic situation, his engineering mind automatically analyzing the problem from multiple angles. What about evacuation? Can civilian populations be moved to safer locations? Not enough time, Admiral Zarathul replied. The hegemony fleets will reach their targets within 72 hours. Even with our fastest transport ships, we could evacuate perhaps 10% of the threatened populations. Fleet Admiral Kekshan's voice boomed across the command center. All senior staff, prepare for emergency strategic consultation. We have less than 3 days to coordinate a defensive response that could determine the survival of coalition civilization. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of tactical planning, resource allocation, and desperate strategic calculation. Marcus found himself assigned to a mixed-species team tasked with evaluating defensive options for the most threatened worlds. The conclusions were uniformly discouraging. Conventional defensive strategies will fail, reported Commander Silix, a Silicon Collective strategist whose crystalline form refracted light into complex patterns. The hegemony's numerical advantage makes traditional fleet engagements impossible to win. Chun Protocol tactics could succeed against individual installations, added Captain Vorex, a veteran elongated officer, but they require time and infiltration opportunities that will not exist during a direct assault on populated worlds. Marcus listened to the discussions with growing frustration. Every analysis reached the same conclusion: the coalition lacked sufficient military resources to defend all targeted worlds simultaneously. Traditional strategies would result in devastating casualties, while innovative tactics could not be implemented quickly enough to matter. What if we changed the nature of the engagement entirely? Marcus said suddenly. The conference room fell silent. Commander Silix's crystalline features shifted to focus on the young human. Explain your reasoning, Lieutenant. Marcus stood and activated the tactical display, showing the approaching hegemony fleets and their projected attack patterns. The enemy expects us to defend each world individually, spreading our forces thin across multiple sectors. What if we concentrated our defensive assets and forced them to come to us? Captain Vorex's elongated head tilted in confusion. You are suggesting that we abandon some worlds to save others? The political implications would be catastrophic. No, Marcus replied, his mind working through possibilities as he spoke. I am suggesting that we make the enemy think we are abandoning worlds while actually creating a tactical trap. Admiral Zarathul entered the conference room at that moment, overhearing the discussion. Explain this trap, Lieutenant. Marcus gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show his developing concept. The hegemony fleets are targeting civilian populations to force us into decisive engagements. They expect us to commit our forces to defend every threatened world, knowing that we lack sufficient resources to succeed everywhere. That assessment is correct, Admiral Zarathul confirmed. But what if we use environmental manipulation on a strategic scale instead of a tactical one? Marcus continued. Instead of trying to defend planets directly, we changed the conditions of space combat itself. The room erupted in confused discussions as officers from multiple species tried to understand what Marcus was proposing. Fleet Admiral Kekshan arrived and called for order. Lieutenant Chen, present your concept to the full strategic planning committee. 30 minutes later, Marcus stood before the most senior military leadership of the coalition, explaining an idea that had evolved from basic engineering principles into a potentially war-winning strategy. Traditional space combat occurs in environments that favor larger fleets with superior firepower, Marcus began. The hegemony's numerical advantage makes conventional engagements impossible for us to win. But space itself can be manipulated using the same environmental principles we have applied on planetary surfaces.
The holographic display showed his proposed modifications to coalition fleet formations and deployment patterns. Instead of meeting the enemy fleets directly, we use Chun Protocol principles to change the physics of space combat itself.
Fleet Admiral Kekshan leaned forward. Elaborate on how environmental manipulation could affect fleet engagements, Lieutenant.
Marcus activated detailed technical schematics. Gravity wells, electromagnetic interference, particle field manipulation, dimensional stress patterns. The same principles that allowed us to neutralize enemy installations by changing their environmental conditions can be applied to space combat on a massive scale.
You are proposing to alter the fundamental conditions under which space battles are fought, observed Admiral Tekvar, a species Marcus had never encountered before. The energy requirements would be enormous.
Yes, sir. But Earth's industrial capacity has already proven capable of producing specialized equipment in unprecedented quantities. We could manufacture gravitational manipulation devices, electromagnetic field generators, and particle beam deflection arrays using the same production lines currently creating Chun Protocol equipment. Colonel Thakmore studied the technical specifications with obvious interest.
If successful, this would negate the hegemony's numerical advantage by making their fleet formations impossible to maintain.
Marcus nodded. Exactly. Their ships would be forced to operate individually or in small groups, eliminating the tactical benefits of massive fleet coordination.
Coalition forces could engage enemy vessels under conditions that favor our smaller, more maneuverable units.
The Strategic Planning Committee spent the next 6 hours analyzing Marcus's proposal from every possible angle. The technical requirements were staggering, the energy costs were enormous, and the timeline was nearly impossible.
But the potential results offered the only realistic hope for coalition survival. The fundamental concept is sound, concluded Dr. Yaristel, the coalition's senior scientific advisor.
Environmental manipulation on this scale has never been attempted, but the underlying physics are well understood.
Fleet Admiral Kekshan's forearms moved in patterns that indicated momentous decision-making. Admiral Zarathul, contact Earth's leadership immediately.
We need their entire industrial capacity dedicated to this project within the next 48 hours. Sir, Marcus interrupted, there is something else. For this strategy to succeed, we need to convince the hegemony that we are implementing conventional defensive strategies while secretly preparing environmental manipulation on a strategic scale.
A deception operation, Admiral Zarathul understood immediately. Make them believe we are defending normally while actually setting a trap.
Yes, ma'am. The hegemony must commit their fleets to attack patterns that assume normal space combat conditions.
If they realize what we are planning, they could adapt their approach and avoid our environmental modifications.
The next 24 hours became a frenzy of coordination that spanned the entire galaxy. Earth's industrial leaders received technical specifications for devices they had never imagined possible.
Coalition fleets began moving toward predetermined positions while maintaining the appearance of conventional defensive deployments. Scientific teams from dozen worlds contributed theoretical knowledge to support environmental manipulation on an unprecedented scale.
Marcus found himself at the center of the coordination effort, serving as liaison between strategic planners, industrial manufacturers, and field commanders. The weight of responsibility was crushing, but every report from approaching hegemony fleets reminded him that failure would mean the destruction of coalition civilization. Production status report, Marcus requested from Dr. Kim on Earth. All major industrial centers are operating at maximum capacity, she replied via holographic communication.
We have retooled everything from automotive factories to electronics manufacturers.
The first gravitational manipulation devices will be ready for shipment within 18 hours.
Timeline is critical, Marcus emphasized.
The hegemony fleets will reach their targets in 36 hours.
We need to have environmental modification equipment in position before they arrive.
Understood.
Earth's entire transportation infrastructure is dedicated to this project.
Every cargo ship, every freight transport, every heavy-lift vehicle is moving coalition equipment. Similar conversations were taking place across coalition space as dozens of worlds contributed resources to the desperate strategic gamble. The scope of coordination required was unlike anything attempted in galactic history.
12 hours before the first hegemony fleets reached their targets, the environmental modification devices were in position.
Massive gravitational generators floated in space near major coalition worlds, hidden among asteroid fields and camouflaged as navigation beacons. Electromagnetic field projectors were distributed throughout the predicted battle zones, disguised as communication relay stations. All environmental systems report ready status, announced Commander Veltar from the primary coordination station.
Fleet Admiral Kekshan stood at the center of strategic operations, surrounded by tactical displays showing the approaching enemy fleets. Coalition forces, prepare to implement Operation Environmental Shield.
This will determine the survival of our civilization. The hegemony fleets arrived exactly on schedule, their massive formations moving with the confidence of superior numbers toward coalition worlds. 3,000 enemy vessels against 800 coalition ships scattered across 17 star systems. Enemy fleets are beginning attack formations, reported Colonel Thakmore from his command position with the 3rd Defense Fleet. They are proceeding according to predicted patterns. All units, maintain defensive positions, Fleet Admiral Kekshan ordered.
Allow enemy forces to fully commit to attack patterns before initiating environmental modifications.
Marcus watched the tactical displays with growing tension as hegemony fleets moved closer to coalition worlds. Every instinct screamed to activate the environmental systems immediately, but the strategy required patience. The enemy had to be completely committed to their attack patterns before the trap could be sprung.
Enemy lead elements entering engagement range, reported Admiral Chorus from the 5th Defense Fleet. Request permission to begin defensive fire.
Negative. All units maintain positions.
Do not engage until environmental modifications are activated. The next 10 minutes felt like hours as Marcus watched hegemony fleets move into perfect positions for the environmental trap.
Their massive formations, designed to overwhelm coalition defenses through sheer numerical superiority, made them vulnerable to the gravitational and electromagnetic effects that would soon change the nature of space combat itself.
All enemy fleets committed to attack formations, announced Commander Veltar. Environmental modification systems ready for activation. Fleet Admiral Kekshan's forearms moved in the final authorization pattern. Execute Operation Environmental Shield. All units, activate modifications on my command. 3, 2, 1, execute.
Across 17 star systems, gravitational manipulation devices activated simultaneously, creating localized gravity wells that disrupted hegemony fleet formations. Electromagnetic field generators produced interference patterns that disabled enemy communication and navigation systems. Particle beam deflectors altered the physics of energy weapon effectiveness, neutralizing the firepower advantages that the hegemony had relied upon. The effect was immediate and devastating.
Hegemony fleets found their carefully coordinated formations scattered by gravitational anomalies. Their communication networks failed under electromagnetic interference. Their weapons systems performed unpredictably in altered particle fields.
Enemy formations breaking apart, reported Colonel Thakmore with barely contained excitement.
Their numerical advantage is negated.
Individual enemy vessels are vulnerable to concentrated coalition attacks.
All units, commence engagement, Fleet Admiral Kekshan ordered. Implement Chun protocol tactics against individual enemy ships. The battle that followed was unlike any engagement in the history of space warfare.
Instead of massive fleet confrontations, the combat consisted of hundreds of small engagements between coalition task forces and isolated hegemony vessels. The environmental modifications made traditional space combat impossible, forcing both sides to adapt to completely new tactical conditions.
Coalition forces, trained in environmental manipulation and flexible tactics, adapted quickly to the altered conditions.
Hegemony forces, dependent on rigid formations and coordinated attacks, struggled to maintain effectiveness in an environment that constantly changed around them. Strategic assessment, Marcus requested from the tactical analysis team.
Coalition forces maintaining tactical superiority in all sectors, reported Commander Silix.
Enemy casualties exceed our own by a factor of 4 to 1.
Environmental modifications are performing exactly as predicted.
The battle continued for 18 hours, but the outcome became clear within the first few hours of fighting. The hegemony strategy of overwhelming coalition defenses through massive fleet actions had been completely neutralized by environmental manipulation on a strategic scale.
Enemy fleets in retreat, announced Admiral Chorus.
Remaining hegemony vessels are withdrawing from all engagement zones.
Fleet Admiral Kekshon allowed himself a rare display of emotion, his golden eyes brightening with satisfaction. Coalition forces maintain pursuit patterns. Do not allow enemy forces to regroup for counterattack.
As the immediate crisis passed, Marcus found himself surrounded by senior officers whose expressions ranged from amazement to exhaustion. In less than 3 days, a desperate strategic gamble based on environmental manipulation had transformed the course of an 8-year war.
Lieutenant Chen, Fleet Admiral Kekshon said, approaching the young human who had developed the tactical principles that saved coalition civilization.
Your innovations have proven decisive not only in individual engagements but in determining the strategic balance of power throughout the galaxy. Marcus looked around the command center where tactical displays showed hegemony forces in full retreat across multiple star systems. Sir, this success belongs to everyone who contributed. Earth's industrial capacity, coalition scientific knowledge, the tactical skills of our military forces, the strategic coordination of our leadership. No single person or species could have achieved this alone.
Admiral Zarathul nodded approvingly. Spoken like a true coalition officer.
But, do not underestimate your personal contribution, Lieutenant. Your ability to see familiar problems from unfamiliar perspectives has repeatedly provided solutions where traditional approaches failed. Over the following weeks, as coalition forces consolidated their strategic victories and began planning the final campaigns against remaining hegemony strongholds, Marcus reflected on his journey from struggling cadet to strategic innovator. The weak human who had once worried about fitting in among alien classmates had become a coalition officer whose ideas influenced the outcome of galactic conflicts. The Chun Protocol and its strategic scale applications had demonstrated that diversity of thought was not just politically valuable but practically essential for solving complex challenges. Human perspectives, combined with alien knowledge and resources, had created new possibilities that no single species could have imagined alone. The war is not over, Colonel Thackmore observed during one of their planning sessions, but, for the first time in 8 years, coalition victory seems inevitable rather than merely possible. Marcus nodded agreement, but his mind was already moving beyond the current conflict. The galaxy contained many challenges that could benefit from innovative approaches and diverse perspectives.
Environmental manipulation was only one application of principles that could transform how civilizations approached problems ranging from resource distribution to interstellar exploration.
The war may end, Marcus replied, but our work in developing new approaches to strategic challenges is just beginning. The coalition benefits from combining different ways of thinking, and there are opportunities we have not even begun to explore. As he stood in the Strategic Operations Center, surrounded by displays showing coalition forces advancing toward final victory, Marcus understood that his role had evolved far beyond anything he had imagined when he first applied for military service. He had become a bridge between human and alien perspectives, helping to create new approaches to challenges that affected entire civilizations. The Academy had taught him that different perspectives create new possibilities. Earth's contribution to coalition victories had proven that human innovation, combined with galactic resources and knowledge, could achieve remarkable results. The future held unlimited potential for continued cooperation and discovery. The human cadet who had once been told that no weapon would work had proven that the most effective weapons were sometimes not weapons at all, but new ways of thinking about old problems. And, in a galaxy full of ancient challenges waiting for fresh solutions, that lesson would continue to create opportunities for generations to come.